some time to look back on the season. This is I guess you could say, the first real season of Vancouver FC, the last one being more maybe of a learning, especially since it kind of came a little earlier than you guys wanted it to. Now that you have this first kind of real season and you look back at all the highs and the lows, what do you kind of make what happened with the players, but not just the playing side, but also in terms of maybe marketing for you, Rob, and growing the fan base and being able to bring more fans to the stadium, everything as a whole?
Let the guy for.
No, you go first.
Yeah, I mean, when you say our first official season, I would still say we're in this development phase, I like to call it, right? We're just entering sort of the last phase of the year two. Obviously everyone knows that we started this club quite quickly, and that comes with its challenges that we're still, I'd say, dealing with, which is fan base awareness, on and off field challenges of building a roster so quickly as we did. It takes years to build an organization, years on and off the field, and so every year that goes by, year one we reflected on last year, the on and off field challenges, reflect on that, build in the off season, and then obviously this year. So I would say there was a lot of improvement on and off the field. When I say off field, which is the business and really the community foundation that we're building, we've come a long way. And really I would say this market of Vancouver is a very interesting and dynamic market, that being in the position we're in, we're still learning how this market works, even in year two. So again, in the off season, on the business side, we're trying to understand is what the fan base is looking for, what the community is looking for, because we have to create a niche, a product that people want to support. And that takes years to develop. A lot of that has to come organically as well. We can't tell the fans of the community. We also need to take feedback. So that's part of this process. And being in really this year two this is the exciting part of the off. I love the off season because it's when you really get time to reflect, and then you get to build on that on and off the field. So in the business, we're still understanding this market, what works, what doesn't, what's the product in the stadium, what are we doing in the community. And then the on-field product is again year two. I think last year was last year. We really threw this organization together pretty quickly, and like I said, there's challenges that we're still dealing with that. But I would say we've come a long way on the on-field product. We built a really, I think, exciting squad and a foundation. But again, it takes years to build this roster, and we're competing against organizations that have been 6-7 years into this, right? So I like to look at this as a positive, as a whole. Are we happy with second last on the table? Absolutely not. But we have to sometimes take a step back. And in football and professional sports, it's very reactive. You can get tunnel vision. You can make reactive decisions. I think that's why the off season is so important, is to take a step back, really speak to everybody, all the stakeholders in the club, outside the club, and really figure out what we need to do now in this off season to make us a stronger organization. And I'm excited what we have, especially in the roster as well. But we have a lot to build off of, and it's now our job to identify the cracks and the weaknesses that we have, and build on that. I'll sort of end with it's easy to come in and have immediate success, and I think the challenge with immediate success is I think it covers up a lot of the cracks. And I wouldn't say any of this has been a failure. I never look at this as a failure, even though positionally we were a lot more ambitious than the position we finished. But really, again, taking a step back, this allows us to really see what's working, what's not, and build on that. And we're going to be stronger in the long term because of that. And that goes off the field as well. What works, what doesn't, on the field, what's been working, what hasn't, and then build off that. Versus if we filled the stadium right away, we got immediate success, I think we would have probably lost a lot of opportunity to see sort of the challenges, versus we know where the challenges are and the weaknesses, and now we can build off that. So I think this offseason is no doubt the most important offseason, because we now have a foundation. Even last year we didn't fully know what this was. and we have a really strong foundation to build off of. And now it's our job is to build off of that, and there's going to be a lot of hard conversations with the players, with the staff, and I'm really looking forward to it. So, anything left for you?
Yes. First and foremost, I think it's important to thank all the fans for 2 years of supporting this project, and I've seen some of them be there from first game and first day until now. And as we've shared with you, and I think you've experienced it with us, it's a kind of a roller coaster ride. And sometimes people believe that a process should be an escalator or an elevator, but it's not. It's a roller coaster, because every process will have success, failures, and it's through those success and failures and managing through them, I think you build the particular culture that can bring the consistency that you're looking for. Right? I approached any project very pragmatically. I feel, as all of you have analyzed, the first year was a very difficult year, partly because of we started November 2nd. I was announced. We didn't have really anything, and we had to build from zero. And even as of January, we had no one signed, and every player that we tried to sign at the beginning that was on our radar as a first priority, they refused. They didn't want to come into a brand new project as an expansion. And then we had to go to second and third and fourth, and eventually we just tried to sign anyone that we felt at that moment was available and that was willing to sign. Then it took us almost half of a season to survive. We had to defend with numbers. You saw some of the games. Some of our possession rates were 35% or below. And then we were fortunate in certain games, out of just effort and energy and spirit, win some games. I still remember very much the Forge game at home with almost an under 22 team, and TJ and Amir scored their goals. It was probably a historic moment for the club, and maybe showed the possibilities. Then at the end of the season, with the addition of some of the veteran players we brought in, we were able to get some nice results once we were out of the playoffs. And that already set the expectations, I think, maybe higher than they should have been. Then we started the season also with a big bang, 2 wins at home. And then all of a sudden, maybe the expectations is higher than what the reality is. We're a second-year team. We made some really nice changes in the group and additions to the group. Probably we're good enough to compete at any given moment with any team and win any game at any moment. But are we good enough in the 28 games to reach the target that is been set by the expectations? And I always kept coming into this second season as optimistic as I am, but my kind of gray hairs give me sometimes these roadblocks that say, be careful. Expectation is much higher than maybe we can achieve, and I think that's why maybe we're all so disappointed. But when I look at the positives, 5,000 minutes under 21 in the first year, developing 2 youth national team players for Canada, going on to next year, adding more under 21 players. Now we have 5 very good under 21 players and 3 youth national team players. And I think of all of those 5, I'm certain that minimum of 1 to 2 of them will play the World Cup with Canada at some point. And I think 3,000 minutes hitting with the under 21, being in the playoff scene all the way into the last game are all very positives. But the reality is, when you take the top 4 teams and you take us 16 games against the top 4 teams, we only earned 10 points, and 4 of them were against Forge. So we need to now close that gap. And to close that gap, we have to have a lot of conversations from within and strategically position ourselves in recruitment and in going forward. What kind of team do we want to be? And I've kind of hinted in some of the interviews based on my conversation with Rob, we really want to be a football factory. We feel there's a niche in the Canadian market that hasn't been really filled. A team that can identify talented young players locally and in the BC area, bring them into a certain environment, having a certain culture, having a certain, in my opinion, ambiance and atmosphere that can produce players that can go on and become international players. And creating that pathway, it takes time. we have to be patient, all of us. And I think sometimes in the modern sports world and landscape, nobody's patient. We all want one result now. We want to win now. And knowing that, we have to find that right balance. What do we sprinkle those youth players with? The experienced international and Canadian players that can get the results necessary to give us the time to keep building this brick by brick, floor by floor. But I think we're an organization of 2 years, and we really need the patience of our fans and our supporters to give us the time to really build what we envision as something that's going to be very special in the Canadian football market.
And I guess building on what you said there in terms of recruitment, you said like last season it kind of was just we need to fill out a squad. This season you went for a different approach of bringing in experience and bringing in a lot of local boys as well. That was one of the best things, I'm sure, from a business point of view, marketing point of view. That was a great success there. Looking at the on-field as well, now seeing what happens at the end, what is the goals, or maybe what's the strategy that you guys are sort of thinking of? I know it's still maybe early days for next season in terms of recruitment. You mentioned that now having a great foundation, and you mentioned this kind of building this football factory. Are you focused again on continuing to identify and bringing in these young players, throwing them into professional environments at 16, 17 years? Or is there more to that? Is there a different kind of idea? Is this still the same strategy of looking for local players, or are you moving on to maybe a different kind of recruitment philosophy?
Yeah, no, I'd certainly say that I guess it's a balanced approach. We obviously year one again, it was put a team out there. A lot of those contracts in football, you inherit a lot of those contracts, so it's not as easy as just rebuilding. And again, year one, we created a small foundation. The strategy last off season, because as a new club, I've got both hats on, right? Is how do I build the fan base, build the business, build an identity of why do people want to come support this club. So the strategy was a lot of the local players. We saw that with Dave Norman, Ben Fisk, Paris G, and then adding that experience. And that was really the framework to last year's recruitment strategy. And not once did we say in the off season last year's, this is a squad we're winning a championship with, because it was a balance of let's bring some local experience, let's take some of the young talent that we already have and some existing players. And then also on top of that, we wanted to really identify one or two key young players, like Grady McDonald was one of our targets, to add into the team, because we need to obviously filter in the younger players. That was really the strategy. There wasn't one saying we're winning the championship, because you're not having that conversation after year one. So sort of building that foundation for year two. Now we've gone through a season. We saw a lot that worked, a lot that didn't. We're going into this off season saying it's year three. Now we need to start talking about winning. How do we win? But it's again a very pragmatic, balanced approach. I would never say we're winning the championship next year. That's not realistic, because if we wanted to build a championship squad, the recruitment strategy is completely different. Very easy to throw a bunch of experienced, let's call them players. There's some teams in this league that do that, and winning is the number one priority. But we have to be very balanced, because that's not what this club is. To Afshin's point, in the DNA is local young talent is what this club's about, and you're seeing it. And every year we're adding a larger pool to that. We have some of the best young talent in this country. We want to be a football talent factory. But on top of that, we also want to win, because by winning creates a winning foundation and sets up those young players for success. Because ultimately, when you define success of this organization, it's you're moving those players on. That's a successful season. But you also have to win. So if you're losing, it's very difficult to move those players on. So creating that environment where the young players can succeed, we obviously need some experienced players. So very balanced approach to that. And I think really, again, building off the foundation we have, I think we're going to target some more experienced players, but then go a little bit younger as well. So really that's going to be the balance, because again, we want to identify more talent. We've now built a U19 academy. We have some incredible young players, BC players, that to me is the next generation. And now we're investing in our U19 program. Those some of the best 16 to 18-year-olds in this province now playing for our badge. We're already seeing 4 or 5 of those boys playing with the first team in training. And so that's really exciting. So now we're creating another layer underneath and creating that pipeline. And then eventually we want to go another layer underneath that. And that's investing in this community, investing in the opportunities for these young players that eventually is going to feed this first team. That doesn't happen overnight. That's a long-term project. So again, by focusing on, obviously, we want to win, but also building layers underneath that create this pipeline of talent, because that's our priority number one, is grabbing these young kids, giving them the opportunity that never existed in this province, in this country. And that's really what the CPL is about as well. So our approach is a little bit more pragmatic than other approaches. And so that's how we're going to go in the off-season and the recruitment strategy. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is age sometimes doesn't play, so it's about quality. You can find a 16-year-old that is, we saw it with Grady as the season went on, and as every week he trained with us, and every month and every game he got chances, he continued improving and growing from a young man to a real professional. And I feel that for us is about finding the players with the talent, with the character, with the ambition, and then hoping to kind of capture them at a particular stage in their careers where we can move them on into the next level. And I was raised in the U.S. market at the time where the game was growing. The World Cup came to the United States in 1994, and there was a massive gap for a 16-year-old to 20-year-old. They didn't really have an environment to become real professionals. And when a young Canadian player would go to Europe, or American would go to Europe, they can compete. But the moment you reach that age 16 to 20, they struggle because they didn't have that youth professional environment. And Canada at this moment, we don't have so many youth professional academies. So a lot of the players that are coming into our environment, if they come directly to our first team, they need a time. They need 6 months to a year. That's why I think what Rob is trying to instill an under-19 and a youth academy underneath the first team, then we can bring them a little bit younger, and at the same time train them and develop them, so when they come into the first team, they are more prepared and they can contribute to the first team much quicker. And I want to leave with the fact that I was with Ajax for many years because I put one of the best young players from America named John O'Brien in Ajax. He had an 8-year career there. We introduced him to Ajax at 14. At 16, he signed. They had an 8-year career there. And Ajax was able to achieve this by winning with young players, developing an incredible academy underneath. So players at age 9 all the way to 18 were coming in. There were 1,600 kids would try out for 16 position for under 9. And then every year they would improve that group and add to that group. And when they arrived at under 18, their goal to place one player from that under 18 to the first team. And they built this incredible pyramid of talent, and they were able to produce top players all over the world. We've seen Barcelona now do that. Barcelona is beating Real Madrid 4-0 away from home with 6 under 21 players. So we can win with this model. We just have to identify the right talents, build the right infrastructure, and then have the time to grow them so they can come into the first team and win. I'm hoping we can do it much faster because I'm 60 years old. I don't know if I can wait 20 years. So I'm on a speed dial. So I'm hoping we can do it faster.
So just on this topic of bringing two young players, a separate question for you, Ashton. You mentioned in your 60s. How difficult is it for you to, obviously football is football, but there's the personality, there's the relational side of things. How challenging has it been for you to to invest into these young people, from 16 and up? Have you had to adjust anything, or how has it been for you helping those young people adjust to the culture of the room, of the team, of what it means to be a part of Vancouver?
I think it's a great question. I think in the last 25 years, I've been working at the highest level in the game. So I've been working with players that earn a lot of money, and they're playing at the highest level with a lot of fans and a lot of media pressure. So there's a certain level of professionalism that they bring in, but also a certain level of ruthlessness in their profession, because they have to succeed to earn the monies and to be in the team. And basically, it's every training is a war. Every game that they play, they bring everything on the table. And I think one of the challenges as CPL grows to become a top league is how do we create a very competitive environment and professionals that are willing to come into training every day and are willing to do all the work necessary, 2 training sessions a day, being devoted to their profession 24/7. And that's something that has always been challenging for me, coming even back to Major League Soccer after I was with Korean national team and I was with Suwon Samsung. I came back to LA Galaxy, and I struggled with that at that time. I had players that wanted to go play with their dogs outside on the beach after training instead of wanting to stay extra and work longer. And I think I'm trying to be patient, and I'm trying to slowly introduce them to what it takes to be a real professional. I'm fortunate that I have an owner that played at the highest level. He was training 3 times a day in Germany, and he was literally in an environment where he had to be basically fighting with the best in the world to win a position in the weekend. And sometimes the differences between playing and not playing is bonuses, winning bonuses for winning the games. So the motivations are different. But I think we've done great in the club. I feel that our young players, because they're so motivated, like I have to kick James Cameron off the pitch. I have to tell TJ to calm down, just go back in. And so I think it's going to organically grow into being the professional environment we want it to be. But it's not going to happen overnight.
Rob, for you, in terms of creating the pathway, the U19 is a massive step in the right direction, obviously. And what you've seen in terms of the youth national team call-ups, both for Canada and for Ireland, have been really, really encouraging. The big light at the end of the tunnel for these players, as you kind of both referenced, is enabling and empowering them, giving that platform to then move on to other more established leagues around the world. Obviously, you can't speak about specific individuals, but how far away are we from that, or for moving like we've seen in the league of Poku, or with Borges or whoever? How far away are we from that? Seeing that with Vancouver FC, and is it just age limited, like you have 18 and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, I'd certainly say this offseason is realistic. We're looking at potentially fielding offers for 2 players. So again, if you look back when we started this club in year 2, we've placed 3 players in youth national teams: TJ, James, and Grady, and potentially 2 of those guys might get European offers. We're getting calls. So that's when with the definition of success of this organization after year 2, we have to look as a whole here, right? Not just the table position. So I think that's exciting. And why am I sitting here? Why am I investing in this project? Why are we all here for the Canadian Premier League? It's those stories. And James Cameron is one I'm really proud of. I mean, our team found him in a trial, in a combine with 300 kids. He's one of those kids that, like myself, when I was younger, I was a late bloomer. I would have fallen through the cracks. We picked him up. We gave him a platform. Played for the U20 national team, and he's going to be either playing in the MLS or in Europe in the next 12 months. And if we can't get behind that story, then why are we supporting soccer in general in this country? So that's realistic. Now it's our job to find more of those. And again, by investing in this U19 program, it's a full-time, it's not paid to play. We're subsidizing this program. We're paying coaches. It's a professional environment. We're already identifying 4 or 5 of these kids for potential first-team opportunities next year. That gets us out of bed. That excites us, right? And I think for the fans as well, we're creating those opportunities. But they got to play, and they have to earn it. And we have to create that winning culture in this organization, where not only do they succeed, they develop and they expedite their development. Really, this is a great platform for that. I will say, as a league, I've been in this league since day one. and it's growing. It's getting better, more competitive. Obviously every year, and now you're starting to see guys like Poku really taking a substantial step into Europe. Now he's doing well. And we need players coming out of this league. We've had success in the MLS. Lucas Monatin, Mo Farsi, Waterman, all these guys having success in the MLS. We need some guys now to go to Europe and have success, because now they can create that benchmark where we can go. Poku's doing well in Belgium second division. Now if you take the top young player out of our league, that's sort of a benchmark, and then the next level, really. So that's going to take time. It took MLS 25 years to start moving guys into Europe. So already in year 7, our league is moving guys into good levels. Poku's now the national team, top 30 team in the world, really. So that's exciting for this league, and now it's our job. Really, I've always said it since day one. BC is it's in my blood. It's been underserved from a soccer market, and that's our job now to pick up a lot of those pieces and elevate them, develop them, and hopefully move them on. So I think it's just the start now with those two.
Okay, keep going. Shifting gears to, you talk about the hope that offseason brings. It also brings its own challenges. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but one of your challenges, how do we have more people come to love Vancouver FC? Along with that, how do we fill the stadium? These are big things. One of the challenges to that, I think, so far, might be growing, and that is just the saturation of football in the Lower Mainland. You have MLS, you have MLS Next Pro, you have League One BC. Now we also will have NSL in the area. Are there ways that you, as you go into next year and you take on that challenge of growing the fan base, are there things already you're going to be doing that you can talk about, or?
I think that's the $1 million question. There's not an answer to that, and it's our job to find, some of those answers that can grow the club. Right? Is it a saturated market? Vancouver's a tough market in general to run any business. You're competing with everything. It's saturated, whether you're running a coffee shop, any sort of business, right? So, I'm excited about this region because it's growing so fast. A lot of young families. You look at the youth soccer landscapes. Langley United has 5,000-6,000 kids. So I think then what's going to happen organically is you're going to have pockets, right, of clubs. And the reality is the Canadian Premier League, we need more awareness on what this league is in general in this market. If we were downtown Halifax, this would be a different story. So every market is totally different across this league, and we're still a new league. So that's still going to take time. We need better TV distribution. We need better marketing across the board. We need a lot of support from the league. That's also challenging in itself, right? So I think in general, the soccer landscape in this country has its challenges. I mean, even our national team doesn't get the exposure they need. Even our players most of them are still unknown. So now you're talking about a Canadian Premier League, a 7-year league in a very large market with a lot of different competition in sports and other things that people could spend their money on. So it's a tough market to begin with. It's tough in this country. We're not Europe where you turn the lights on and people show up at games. So we have to identify what can we do differently. We need to be affordable. We need to be accessible. We need to have a great entertainment product. Of course, we know that we can't sell soccer only. As much as we'd love to sit here and say, best product on the field is going to fill the stadium, but I think then creating stories, creating opportunities, the soccer community starts to really support this club, because I think knowing what this club is, you can't not support it. It's there for the development of the game in this country, creating that ecosystem for the next generation, aspiring these kids that's realistic. I can play for my local club. That's never existed in this country, in this city. So, but it's not an easy one to answer. It's one, even on the business side, we're trying to figure out areas, and every off season, what worked this year, what didn't, things we could do differently. I'm challenging this market, this township to invest in the stadium. That's something I think the stadium experience can be better. So I'm going to challenge the mayor and the township and create, because really the Langley Event Center is an incredible venue that I think it could be more. It could be more sports and entertainment. It could host more international soccer games. I think this should be one of the hubs of the Lower Mainland for football, for soccer. And whether that's bringing international games, whether that's bringing, FIFA games, there's a lot of we got the investment, and I'm challenging everyone. And again, it doesn't happen overnight, but we're committed to this project, and it's going to grow every year.
Maybe if anyone else for now.
Is there a specific position you'd like to address in the off season, or is it kind of just
On-field position?
Yeah, like on-field position. Like, is there?
Can you find us someone to score 20 goals? Every team's looking for that guy.
Yeah.
No, I would no. I think back to my point about the strategy is we have a very defined strategy this off season, more so than we've ever had. Year one was year one. Year two was a little bit business thinking. We have a very exciting foundation, like I said, and we've identified some positions that are key. But I think it's more about the profile of players. I think it's the balance of experienced winners. We want guys in the locker room that have won championships, that have potentially played in World Cups. We need those guys as those mentors to this club, to this community, and to the young players. And so creating those two sort of balances, and then obviously you'll have some players in between that. So I think it's again more identifying the types of profile and then going after the positions.
I guess, Afshin, personally, what are some things you learned from this season? It's a tough league to coach in, for sure. We see it with the challenge of playing the teams so often. So, you're seeing a lot of Forge, Calgary, all the other teams around you, the travel, you having to go make some of these long trips across the country. And what do you maybe learn from that when you see how the season went, where you guys came out, you surprised some teams, you started strong, and then as the year went on, you had some struggles. The home form was big concern, and some ways you maybe might want to address those things and learn from it heading into year 3.
Yeah, I think we've really talked about those issues, and we've kind of reflected and analyzed it. And I think the conclusion that I've come up with is that we need to find players that have achieved great things and that are coming to our club. They're winners. They've won before. They bring that confidence. They bring that mental toughness that we need. I think what we lacked is consistency and the mental endurance and to be able to sustain a certain level of performances that allows us to get the points needed. We found ourselves, we even surprised ourselves. We go to Forge, we win 2-1. We're playing Forge, we're winning 2-1. Vasco gets red carded. We go down 3-2. We come back, make it 3-3. And one of the things that was fascinating for me is that we would be in a really bad situation, and all of a sudden we would surprise ourselves. Like Valor with 10, a 96-minute fantastic goal to win the game. Winning derby games are not easy, and to beat Pacific 3 times in one season out of 4 is a remarkable achievement. But how do you take those success stories and repeat it over and over in a consistent level? Rob and I spoke about we never put 3 wins in a row together. At the end of the season, we were able to put 4 very good team performances, but we got all drawn. Allowed only 2 goals, one in the 97th and 11 seconds, and the other one on just a strange counterattack where we completely fell asleep for half a second, and the ball was in the back of our net. I think these has to do with having players that have experience, especially experiencing winning and titles. And when you have so many young players in so many different positions, you need to anchor them with those kind of personalities in the locker room, in the training, and in the matches. So when a James Cameron or a TG can look to that personality, that person, they know they can win. I had a fantastic player in Persepolis named Karim Bagheri. He was 85 caps for the national team. He played in Premier League in England. He played in Bundesliga, and then he played for me. He was at 36 years old. When the young players looked at this guy in training, everybody lined up. Nobody could just even sneeze or cough at the wrong moment in the locker room. And then when the team was behind, he would just take the team on his back, score the winning goal, or give the pass. I think we missed that kind of player in our team, and I feel that in this offseason we need to find that personality and that character to bring consistency, to bring kind of ruthlessness that's necessary when the game is on the line. And I think we failed to find that person on the pitch. I think Callum was by far the best keeper in the league, had a great performances and was able to keep us in a lot of games. But we needed one on the field to do the same.
kind of get a second opportunity. But we're now kind of seeing a wave of guys like Grady, like Shola Gmont York, who are guys that are choosing the CPL over maybe sticking in the MLS pathway. What do you make of just, you know, being able to offer that and to be able to convince these kids that the CPL can, you know, do what they need to hit some of the heights they want to in their young careers?
I think the short answer to that is, again, so I've been here for 7 years. The first 3 years is there wasn't even that conversation. You weren't getting the best kids from whether it's MLS academies, bringing the top kids back, or frankly the best talent in your market. Wasn't even a conversation. Then a few years later, you're fighting. You're trying to convince these kids to come to the CPL because really we believe it on the inside. It's the right level for these kids. It's the right platform. Now, today, I'm getting phone calls from every kid. Every top talent in this country wants to play in the CPL because they're seeing that's the quickest pathway for the development. And Grady and Rabias, we're talking about Grady right now. He's the perfect example. He came in as a child, as a kid. You know, like. Playing academy football. He's leaving here at the end of the season as a man, like because he's playing with men. Every training meant something. Every game meant something. His development expedited so quickly. So, and hopefully, whether it's this off season, whether it's middle, he's gonna leave at some point to a much bigger club. He's that good. So whenever he does, that's the poster child to the pathway in this country. I truly believe that. And so when I say we're fielding phone calls from every talent right now, and I think the MLS and competition is great. You know, complacency I think has been happening in this country with what's, you know, relying on 3 professional clubs. It's not possible. And so now with the CPL, I think the MLS clubs are going, okay, whether we work together or do we compete, I think whatever that is, it's going to be healthy for the game in this country. But certainly I can tell you the young talent is going, that's where I want to be because that's where I'm going to develop the quickest, and then I'm going to move on because really that's what they need to be focused on. It's not money, it's not, you know, what badge you're wearing, it's where am I going to play proper football in this country so that I'm ready to move on to the next level, and it's absolutely this league.
I guess just for another one is, you know, what's an ideal off-season look like for you in terms of, you know, maybe just, you know, recruitment in terms of what you want to bring in to help the squad next year, and also just off the field, what are some maybe specific targets where it's, you know, just more inroads, more marketing, is it continuing with this U19 team? Are there anything specific you're honing in on?
So how much time do we have? It's that's a much longer conversation. I'll try to summarize that. I think really when I speak about the on-field on the football side, I think this week's been a lot of reflection, really, in terms of reflecting on the last 2 years, you know, identifying the issues, the challenges, how are we going to solve that, and then from there you can create a clear strategy, which we've identified defined what that is. So now we can move forward in terms of every single player that we've, in terms of the strategy, we have a profile set up for them. This is the age, this is all the way to defining what the salary within that salary cap is. So now we can go forward with a proper, clear template. And then after that, there's everything to. I mean, the off field there's 1,000 challenges and answers and questions, and you know, there's a lot of work on the off field that we still need to do as well. Back to your question, Zach, is you know, what is the answer? How are we going to fill the stadium? It's an hourly conversation in this building. And we have incredible business staff that are doing the right things, trying to figure out, you know, how to make this work and how to fill that stadium, because we're ambitious. Again, we're not gonna sleep at night until the stadium's full and we're winning championships and we're moving players on, right? That's as simple as this, you know, our long-term goals are, and then we need to work backwards in terms of how we're going to get there, and also be patient, because it does sometimes just take time. These things don't happen overnight. We see the challenges in this country. So I think that's the short answer to I guess your question.
I'd like to add to that, and one of the conversations we're having is how do we take a league that starts in April and ends in mid-October, late October, and there's a massive gap between seasons. So I think if you really want to focus on developing players, they need to play more games, they need to be training more often. I think more than a 6 weeks holiday for a football player in a year is too long. So our conversations about working together with various clubs and setting up maybe mini tournaments earlier, creating blocks of 3 weeks, 2 week blocks where team goes away and has a camp, even starting in mid-January. I think those are conversations that I think if we can make to realization, which we wanted to do from the beginning, we're going to accelerate the development of our players, and I think improve the results that we have. The two top teams, they had a 1 month head start, Forge and Calgary. So that month makes a big difference in the preparation of a team. So hopefully we can achieve that together and as a club, which I think will help us at the end.
I think we'll go back to Zach for one last question, and then as a room, we'll give 2 more, so 3 total.
When a season ends the way it did, and it's so close, obviously you can look back and say, here's a moment, here's a referee decision, here's we drop points here or whatever. I guess for you, Afshin, how significant is the end to the Halifax game in terms of summarizing the season, or just being like a very moment you wish the club could relive?
But I think to be fair, there were many moments through the season where if we would have been able to have a different outcome, we would already be still playing.
When you look at all of them in retrospect, is that the biggest one?
But I would say the Halifax one, in my opinion, when you had such a great defensive performance and great goalkeeping, and I think it was we were dangerous with 10 creating chances, and then in the 97th minute you're looking at the clock and you see all of a sudden we have a 2 against 0, and I in my mind, ball is he's going to carry the ball and roll it to Grady, and Grady's going to have his first professional goals in a 2-0 win, and then it goes the other way and you go. I think that was the playoffs right there, because at that moment you lose 2 points, you come home, because you win that game, you come against Valor, you're going to win that game, then it's over. But I have to be proud of the 4-game performance of the team. From the Calgary game 0-0, great defending performance, and then you go on to Halifax, playing a man down, you get a goal, you defend with your life for 97 minutes, and an Ottawa match, 19 shots on against Ottawa. So these are great performances that gives us all this motivation and hope that this team is gonna become a great team in the near future.
I have 2. That's good.
Sure.
So, Rob, we were talking a bit about bringing youth into Vancouver, being this kind of football factory. Also talking about the saturation of the market, and competing or working with some of the other clubs around. Obviously, Whitecaps is the biggest one. Whitecaps have the residency program and the academy. So for you trying to build this football factory, after you mentioned finding a niche in that, trying to build that football factory. What are some of the strategies that you're doing to maybe make yourself more attractive than the Whitecaps? Previously we've heard from the Whitecaps that they want to focus on youth. They mentioned the Athletic Bilbao of Canada. That's something that's they can't ever forget now that they've mentioned it. But is that maybe a strategy now that maybe opens up for you guys because of the more grassroots nature of not only the league but the specific club as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we look at the opportunities, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and point at the competition. I don't look at it that way. I think I just see opportunity in this market. And what is the opportunity? There's talent in this. When was the last time we produced, and we're all responsible for a national team player out of British Columbia, and we can identify reasons why or not. More players in Ontario, maybe. To me, I'm going, this used to be the hotbed in this country. Why aren't we producing more players? I'll let you guys speculate on that one. So now I'm going, okay, there's an opportunity. There's players out here. And what we can do is we can just provide opportunity, and that's the best we can do. And again, the CPL is the opportunity. So we have that. Now what can we add underneath that? Where's the best 15, 16, 17-year-olds playing? Is there more kids that we've forgotten about falling through the cracks, or frankly just made the decision not to go one path? So we have to now capture those kids. I mean, you look globally, a city of like ours, 2.5, 3 million population. We can name all the countries outside North America. In a city the size of Vancouver, there's multiple professional clubs producing multiple world-class players. So there's not a reason why we can't find a gem that's either been falling through the cracks, been forgotten about, or frankly, again, just gone a different path. So again, I look at it as opportunity versus what's the competition doing. I'll let everyone speculate what they're doing. We're going to do what we can and do it to the best of our ability.
But is there something maybe that you were seeing as an advantage in terms of your own situation that makes it more attractive for young players? I know Grady's...
The advantage is the CPL.
Oh, just the...
To me, that is our differentiator, is a damn good level, professional level, playing week in, week out for your job, playing with teammates that this is their job, they're feeding their kids. That's an environment that we need young kids in. And so again, it is balanced. It's not we're not throwing out a U20 team here. We're not talking about that, but finding the right kids, putting them in those environments, that is where these young Canadian kids need to be, and we have that. Simple as that.
And then last one, Afshin. Like you mentioned before about maybe expectations being a little too high with the way that you ended last season, the way you started the season. With that comes a lot of pressure. And I know that for yourself and with Rob and everyone at the club, you kind of have like a more of a long-term vision. You understand that these things take time. But outside of the club, when you're looking at fans, when you're looking at maybe like the hardcore, even the casual journalists, they're looking at the in the moment and now, and they have those expectations. And when things aren't going your way, the pressure starts to mount from that side of football. How do you sort of deal with that? I know that there was maybe growing pressure on yourself and on the team because of that hard start throughout the season, especially when you missed the playoffs because of how long you were in there. How did you sort of deal with that pressure, and how are you looking to maybe use that for next season when the expectations might be even higher than they were this season?
I think first and foremost, leadership is all about taking responsibility, and there have been a lot of studies done, and managers and coaches are, the studies showed about 18% of the results are managers' responsibility, but at the end, the managers are taking 100% of the responsibility. I think that in CPL, probably that 18% drops even further, but I feel that at the end of the day, I'm fully responsible. There are no excuses, and the fact that we don't get the results, I carry them every night to sleep. I wake up with it. I carry it all day because in my life I've always been a winner. So it's very difficult for me and also for Rob, because he's also a winner, to be able to manage personally the fact that we didn't get the result we wanted to get and we felt we should get. You can only just work harder. You have to just keep your head up, and you have to constantly be intelligent and pragmatic and find solutions, and you have to stay united within your organization and together stand up and fight together to reach the next season to the success you want. But this project was never, when we started, Rob and I, was going to be a half a season or a 1 year or a 2 year. For me, it's a 3 to 4 year project, even longer, to really build the organization that can consistently get results, sell players, because it's not easy just to, with local young players, integrate with senior players. It's created 2 years ago, come to a league like ours and be champion or achieve success. And we saw the difference. Top 4 teams, the bottom 4 teams. It's so close between the bottom 4, so close between top 4. And that gap, we're going to close that. And we're going to close it very quickly, because I know how hard he works, how hard I work, and I know with our unity within the organization, by next season we're going to be there. And I think, again, I'm responsible. I'm the first one. I put my hand up. I take all the blame, and I have to live with that. And at the same time, I have to, as a leader, find the solutions necessary to move forward. But I'm never giving up. I've never give up. I'm that kind of person, and failure only makes me more motivated and makes me work harder.
Everyone on Zoom, we unfortunately are out of time. Rob or Afshin, was there any last statement that you'd like to make?
No?
All good?
Thanks
Okay,
for showing up, guys.
Yeah, thank you everyone for
Appreciate it.
joining us, and thank you, Rob and Afshin.